Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today. My name is Raveen. I am the founder of Hello Hire. And today we're going to be talking about how to hire hospitality staff in a tight labor market, as well as a government funded program that will help you accelerate your hiring. We're doing this in partnership with the Hospitality Workers Training Center, and Eli from HWTC is here. I'd love for Eli to introduce himself as well as the organization.
Thank you, Ravin, and thank you everyone for being here. I'm Eli Sekli, Director of Employment Outcomes at HWTC. And HWTC is an organization which was founded 20 years ago and based following the SARS. And since then, we've been helping hospitality to strive again and always bring new talent and new entrants to the hospitality. So we have a series of programs free of charge and are given to all our trainees and participants, where we also ultimately find them a job. So recruitment is also part of our core business, and therefore we are here partnering with you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eli. And again, thanks everyone for being here. So today in the workshop, I'm going to show you how to find the best talent while spending less time, money, and resources on recruiting. And I understand you're probably experiencing hiring challenges caused by a shortage of qualified candidates. And if you are, this will probably be one of the most important workshops you attend this year. So thanks again for being here. Who's this workshop for? So, on one side, you might sit on the operational side and really you might be managing the actual hospitality business. And for you, it's important to hit your revenue numbers, your KPIs, and make sure things are running smoothly. On the other hand, you might sit on the HR side and specifically be involved in recruiting and hiring. Either way, whether you're in operations or in HR, this workshop is for you. I don't need to tell you this, but hiring hospitality staff is harder than ever. Everybody is hiring, and we're no longer just competing within our industry. We're competing with other industries, new working models, and new life priorities. Hiring great talent has never been harder. But it's not our fault. With all of the post-pandemic changes, we've also been hit with a huge change in the job market. We've gone from having more people than jobs to now having more jobs than people. This is a fundamental shift, and this has changed everything. We were told this was because of the pandemic and that when the subsidies ended, everyone would come back to work, but this was just plain wrong. The labor shortage we're experiencing right now, it's real and it isn't new. It's been a growing problem for over 10 years. It just felt really like a punch in the face because of the pandemic. It kind of just caught us by surprise. But if you look at the graph on the screen, this is showing you the number of people or the percentage of people voluntarily leaving the workforce every year for over 10 years. And in 2020, there was so much uncertainty that anyone who kind of had a job held on to it, not knowing what to expect. But as soon as 2021 hit, we're right back to that linear trend. And so this labor shortage that we are experiencing right now, it's here to stay and it's our new normal. And this new normal is making hiring really hard. I mean, hiring starts with interest and we're just not seeing enough of it. How many times have you advertised a job only to find that you just don't get enough applicants? And the ones you do aren't always a good fit. If you can't get interested candidates, it's impossible to hire. And then another huge problem is ghosting. When we finally get in touch with a candidate and book an interview, more than half of the time, the candidate doesn't show up. And candidates ghost really for two main reasons. Number one is that they landed a job somewhere else, or two, they were just never really that interested in the job to begin with. On the bright side, you don't want to hire the person that really doesn't want the job, but it shouldn't be at the expense of your time. And when you keep getting ghosted and experiencing these no-shows over and over, it's really frustrating and demoralizing. Look, at the end of the day, these challenges are making it impossible to meet our hiring objectives. And if we don't fill our open positions, or worse, if we fill our open positions in a rush with the wrong people, we'll never meet our business goals and KPIs. And we've looked at sort of the symptoms, and what we found is that the root problem is really the hiring process. We're doing it all wrong. We're recruiting like we did 50 years ago. And so the symptoms that we're experiencing are because of an outdated and somewhat unfair recruiting process that pushes candidates away. If you think about it, over the last 10 or 20 years, we've had more people than jobs. And so we've created systems and technology to screen people out by adding friction and steps and things to really show us that, the candidate really wants the job, so that we're not having to interview everybody. But again, with that paradigm shift, now that is no longer working. And so any friction that we add, any step from the moment a candidate is interested in the job to when they have an interview is bad. And we lose steps at every single step, every single request or even communication point from when they showed interest to when we interview them. Another big challenge is really the communication delays. When you post a job or advertise a job and get interest, you have days before that candidate's going to have a job somewhere else. And so really any time you spend that isn't immediately engaging a candidate increases the chances of them taking another job. And then lastly, scheduling delays. If you're booking interviews days away, or worse, I dare say a week away, again, you lose the opportunity of getting the candidate. And so I know scheduling is tough, and we have department managers and various schedules to work around, but any delays are going to increase the no-shows and make it harder to hire. And also, if we've got great candidates, but we're booked until, a few days out, we miss out on that great candidate because we had no availability. And again, it's a vicious cycle that keeps going on and on. Throwing more money at ads or external agencies, or, hiring more, people to process applicants isn't really the answer. Don't get me wrong, we need ads in the flow of candidates, but if we do things the way we've always done, we'll be wasting really valuable time and resources. And so we've worked with a lot of hospitality businesses, that are experiencing hiring challenges, and we get a lot of questions. And, one of the big ones is, how do we get more applicants? But we found that businesses that have solved the problem are looking at these questions a little bit differently. And so they would ask, not how do we get more applicants, but how do we make it easy to apply and engage for our jobs? We also get, how do we stop the no-shows and the candidate ghosting? And really what we need to be asking there is, how do we engage quickly and entice candidates to show up? And lastly, we ask, how do we fill our positions when there's so much competition? And really we should be asking, how do we act fast and hire before the competition? How do we become the winners? And the answer, and what we really need to do, is interview every interested candidate as quickly as possible, ideally on the spot or within 24 hours. We need to go straight to the interview without adding any extra work for the candidate or for ourselves. And let that sink in for a second. If someone is interested in your job, interview them, ideally right away. It doesn't make sense in today's market to ask that person to apply, fill out a form, do an assessment, do a video, or, anything, any hoops that we ask them to jump through. We can't afford to do that. And as I mentioned, when we had more people than jobs, we created technology and systems and processes to screen people out. Phone screens, video screens, AI screening. It was all so that we would spend less time meeting candidates with the hopes of just meeting quality candidates. And I get it. When we have thousands of people applying, we could do that. But in today's world, any screening we do shy of meeting a candidate is likely flawed and is going to slow us down. And so if we look at recruiting the old way, we spent a lot of time looking at resumes, doing phone screens, scheduling, and then more time with, candidates that don't show up or are just a bad fit. but we don't know that until later in the process. And also resumes don't tell us much about a candidate. In our industry, we're looking for communication, enthusiasm, and commitment, but it's impossible to know any of that from a resume. And so Hello Hire allows you to really to screen and hire quickly with speed interviews. It's really easy. The way it works is you set your availability. You say when you're available to interview. You invite candidates by sending them a link, either through email, SMS, through your applicant tracking system, however you're engaging with candidates. And then you show up and interview them one after another, back to back. And when you do speed interviews, you cut out all of the time on screening, all the time on no-shows and on, candidates that aren't a good fit. And you're able to just meet candidates in 80% less time. And so the old way was, phone screens and chasing candidates, leaving voicemails, following up, just trying to book an interview. And the new way is really speed interviews. Just bring a virtual queue of candidates to you to interview back to back without really having to do any work. And, previously we looked at interview scheduling one-on-one, and this is how we get those no-shows. And so the future, or the new way, is really one-to-many scheduling. Invite a bunch of people over a period of time and let technology handle this micro scheduling and the wait room and all of that. And then lastly, the old way was screening the resume, which is just not an effective way of assessing someone's soft skills. And so let's actually screen the person. Let's meet the person and use that as a fair judgment of their capabilities. And when you implement something like speed hiring, you go from not having enough candidates to having an easy and repeatable way to find the top candidates. You go from feeling, hopeless of like, what do I do in this market, to feeling excited about being able to pick the best candidates. And you go from, choosing what's left to picking the top candidates for your business. And then you go from, being held back to being able to actually meet the objectives of your business and operate at full capacity. Really just a couple examples of companies that have tried speed interviews and some of the benefits that they've seen. So again, Pandora, seasonal ramp up, 70% less time recruiting. We've got, KFC, Pizza, Taco Bell. The candidates come to them. They spend 80% less time recruiting. And it's a call center. They replaced phone screens altogether and saved 86% of their time recruiting. And, we know that great people are the foundation to a great hospitality business, and we want to help you hire them quickly. Generally, we do give the first hire on us, but as I mentioned, we've been awarded a grant from the government of Ontario that will allow us to give hospitality businesses in Ontario our platform to use at no cost until March of 2023. There are limited spots in this program, but yeah, they are there and there for you to take advantage of. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you being here, and I'd love to open up the floor for questions. Please feel free to turn on your camera and talk, or use the chat, whatever you prefer. Anyone here have any questions?
Maybe Raveen, if I may ask one question quickly.
Sure.
I mean, some of us, most of us who hires people and do the recruitment process, and you mentioned that it speed up the recruitment process, and also maybe in the back end, also it will keep the track of the recruitment or the interviewed people, and this is where we are interested in. So the people who are interviewed and were not selected, they will be kept in a pipeline somewhere in the back end, where you don't need as a recruiter to keep track and keep a table of maybe next in line or so. Can you give us some more update info on that part, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the Hello Hire virtual interview, you're able to actually assess candidates on criteria that's important to you. So in the interview, and these are timed interviews, they're usually anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes long. You can assess the candidate's communication skills, their energy, enthusiasm, commitment, and other criteria that are important to you. You're also able to take notes and keep track of the candidates that you feel are a good fit or not, as well as, a maybe. That information is available to you at the end of the interviews for you to then take action on. Again, like you said, Eli, if they're a good fit, you can actually move them on in your recruiting process. If they're a maybe, you can, kind of decide. And if they need more work, there are programs where,
Like
and
HWTC, they can send them to
like
HWTC.
HWTC, where we
Yeah.
can upskill candidates and bring that feedback to them so that we can work on training them so that they're able to excel in the future.
Thank you.
That's a great question. Okay, well, in terms of next steps, again, we appreciate you being here. I will send information to each of you. We'll send a replay of the session, as well as next steps for how to get HelloHire for free through our government-funded program, as well as participation in additional virtual job fairs, and connecting with other groups or other organizations that represent candidates that you would also have access to as a part of this program. And so these are all things that are part of this wonderful program funded by the Government of Ontario. And yeah, you should definitely take advantage of it.
Thank you so much, Ravin.
Thank you, Eli. Thanks everyone for being here. And yeah, have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.